Picture this. You're running a company at the absolute peak of the tech world. You've got a staggering valuation of $128 billion. And then, two kids offer you their tiny, unknown search startup for just $1 million. And you look at them and you say, no. Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is arguably the greatest corporate tragedy in modern history. Right, so to truly understand this monumental failure, we really have to look at how a company that used to essentially be the entire internet lost absolutely everything. I mean, it's a story packed with catastrophic decisions, staggering arrogance, and just a total loss of focus. So how exactly does an empire with limitless resources just completely crumble? Let's break it all down.
Part 1. The Accidental Internet Empire.
Okay, let's rewind to 1994. The internet back then was just a completely unorganized mess. You couldn't find anything. So two college friends, Jerry and David, decided to fix it. They created a simple directory of their favorite websites, and when Netscape linked to it, boom, millions of views poured in practically overnight, forcing these two guys to, build an actual business out of it. They obviously needed a name, so they just opened a dictionary and landed on Yahoo. The definition? A boorish, crass, or stupid person. They absolutely loved that fun college dorm vibe. And that fancy acronym you might have heard of, yet another hierarchical officious oracle? Yeah, they actually retrofitted that later. The funny dictionary definition definitely came first. So Yahoo very quickly becomes the default entry point to the internet for everyone. And because they could track exactly what categories people were clicking on, a light bulb went off. They realized, hey, we shouldn't just link out to other websites, we should build our own. So they did. Chat rooms, shopping portals, sports, finance. By the year 2000, their original web directory made up less than 20% of their traffic. A massive 80% was going straight to their newly owned services. They basically built this giant digital mall that you never, ever had to leave, and it rocketed them to $128 billion valuation.
Part 2. Turning down trillion-dollar deals.
Now, right in the middle of this massive growth phase, two students with a tiny search startup approached the newly minted tech giant. They offered to sell their entire business to Yahoo for $1 million. And look, for a company the size of Yahoo at that time, $1 million was absolute pocket change. It was a literal rounding error. But Yahoo passed. That little startup, as you probably guessed, was Google. And that single fateful decision would become the ultimate phantom haunting Yahoo forever. So when the dot-com bubble burst, Yahoo's manual, human-curated directory system just couldn't keep up with how fast the web was expanding. People were jumping ship and migrating over to Google's vastly superior automated search. In an absolute panic, Yahoo went back to Google. But not to buy them this time. Instead, they decided to license Google's search engine. And wow, this was a disaster. Users loved Google's results so much that Yahoo was essentially just handing them free advertising on a silver platter. And worse, Google had secretly built a highly profitable, algorithm-based ad system in the background. So first, Google siphoned off Yahoo's users, and then they turned right around and siphoned off Yahoo's advertisers.
Realizing this fatal error, Yahoo went back to Google to finally just try and buy them outright. But Google knew their worth now, and their price was climbing. First, they wanted $1 billion. By the time Yahoo finally swallowed their pride and agreed, Google's price had jumped to $3 billion, and then, incredibly quickly, up to $5 billion. The whole deal just completely collapsed. Yahoo walked away to try and build their own search engine, but honestly, the war was already lost. Now, you would think they would have learned their lesson, right? Well, fast forward to 2006. Yahoo had another golden opportunity to save themselves by dominating a totally new frontier, social media. They sat down with a very young Mark Zuckerberg and agreed to buy Facebook for $1 billion flat. Zuckerberg actually didn't want to sell at all, but his board of directors and investors legally forced his hand. The deal was done. But Yahoo just couldn't help themselves. At the absolute last minute, trying to be clever, they tried to lowball Facebook. They dropped their official offer down to $850 million. And it backfired beautifully for Zuckerberg. Since Yahoo dropped the price below that $1 billion mandate, the board's condition was technically broken. Zuckerberg immediately walked away. So by trying to save a measly $150 million, Yahoo missed out on an empire that today is worth roughly $1 trillion. Ouch!
Part 3. The peanut butter problem. It's super easy to just point at those missed acquisitions and say, yep, that's why they failed. But the real cancer killing this company was entirely internal.
In this now famous internal memo dubbed the Peanut Butter Manifesto, an employee brilliantly described Yahoo's crazy corporate bloat. They were, quote, spreading resources way too thin. They were trying to focus on everything, and by doing that, they were focusing on absolutely nothing in particular. They operated like this chaotic, messy collection of completely separate startups. For example, they acquired a super popular photo sharing site called Flickr, right? But inexplicably, they still kept a totally separate internal team running Yahoo Photos. Different code bases, different designs, zero integration. It was madness. And the ultimate symptom of this disease was a complete and total lack of identity. There's this crazy story from a company retreat where executives were asked to write down the single word that came to mind when they heard a specific company's name. For Google, everyone wrote search. For eBay, everyone wrote auctions. PayPal, payments. But when they were asked about Yahoo, everyone wrote down something completely different. It was a massive wake-up call because it proved that not even the leadership team knew what Yahoo was actually trying to be.
Part 4. Chaos and cutthroat culture.
So without a clear identity, the internal environment just turned incredibly toxic. And it started right at the top with a dizzying CEO carousel. Between 2007 and 2012, Yahoo burned through 5 different CEOs in just 6 years. It was wild. Whenever a CEO didn't deliver instant magical turnaround results, they were just thrown out the door. This led to a staggering 24 different changes to their corporate mission statement. Paralyzed by all this turmoil, they completely missed the boat on the shift to the mobile internet era, leaving all their apps just embarrassingly clunky and outdated. And to make matters worse, the leadership introduced a really catastrophic internal rating system. Managers were strictly forced to fail a certain percentage of their employees, even if the entire team was performing brilliantly. Now, this was intended to weed out the weak, but instead, it just completely destroyed any sense of collaboration. It created this incredibly cutthroat culture where employees felt forced to literally backstab their own teammates just to avoid hitting that mandatory failure quota.
Part 5. The multi-billion-dollar blunder.
So let's recap. You have a company with absolutely no identity, chaotic leadership, and a totally toxic workplace. Then, in 2008, Microsoft throws Yahoo a massive lifeline. They offered to buy them for over $44 billion so they could unite and fight against Google. And Yahoo arrogantly rejected it. They actually claimed the offer undervalued them. Just let that sink in. Fast forward to 2017. After years of bleeding users and pushing out completely mediocre products, Yahoo was finally sold to Verizon. The final price tag? Just $4.48 billion, less than 1/10 of what Microsoft had offered, and a really sickening drop from their $128 billion peak.
Part 6. Jack of all trades. So when you strip it all back, what actually killed Yahoo? Well, once automated search replaced the old web directory model, Yahoo just lost its core purpose. They did hundreds of different things, sure, but they did them all averagely. And because of that, hyper-focused competitors were able to just systematically pick off their empire, piece by piece. Yahoo Shopping, crushed by Amazon. Yahoo Mail, overtaken by Gmail. Yahoo Answers, replaced by Quora. Yahoo Messenger, totally made obsolete by WhatsApp. These competitors focused on being the absolute best in the world at one specific thing, while Yahoo just sat in the middle, suffering a slow death by 1,000 cuts. Today, Yahoo does still exist. It's mostly kept afloat by people who made their email accounts 2 decades ago and just never bothered to migrate. But make no mistake, they are a ghost of their former selves, which leaves us with a really fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying question. Who is going to be the next fallen tech empire? I mean, we tend to assume today's giants are totally invincible, but look at Google right now. They're facing unprecedented threats from highly focused aggressive competitors like TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. The brutal truth here is that no matter how big your market cap is today, any empire that loses its focus or spreads itself too thin like peanut butter is destined to suffer the exact same fate. Keep your eyes on the market, folks, because